Welcome to the Fat Loss Programming module. So this is where the course really starts getting concrete and meaty and practical. So let's have a look at the lessons. Lesson 1, we're going to learn how to set realistic goals and timeframes. Very important part of the process. Then we're going to learn how to individualize macronutrient targets. Then we're going to go over some important notes on carbohydrate restriction in general and ketogenic diets specifically. Then we will look at the icing on the cake. In other words, meal timing and distribution. And then we'll look at individualizing the hedonic strategy or the junk food strategy. Finally, we'll wrap things up with a discussion about water as an underrated facilitator of weight and fat loss success. Lesson 1, let's talk about goal setting and setting realistic progress projections and timeframes. What we have over here is a classic piece by Abernathy and Black, where they discuss the normal and healthy body fat percentage ranges for women and men. And for women, you can see 20 to 30%, for men, 12 to 20%. And then a little more recently, but still classic work by Kyle and colleagues, putting women at 21.7 to 33.2 and men 10.8 to 21.7, and these were deemed to be normal and healthy body fat percent ranges. It's easy enough to take this set of data and just kind of commit to memory that men, generally speaking, are healthy at 10 to 20% body fat. Women, generally speaking, are healthy at 20 to 30% body fat. And it's perfectly fine for women to be in the low to mid 30s, according to more recent findings. But it's important to know that these are just general population level ranges. Everything has to be evaluated on an individual basis when you work with clients. So just because somebody breaches the upper or lower end of these ranges doesn't mean that's automatic cause for panic. You just have to look at their individual circumstances and get to the bottom of what's going on with them program, lifestyle-wise, and all of the other parameters of health. And then you can make better judgment on an individual basis. But these are what's considered generally normal and healthy. So now we get into a little bit more specialized populations here. So these are the body fat percentages of elite Olympic athletes from a classic paper by Fleck. And you can see the men in the 100 and 200 meter sprints, what a lot of men wish to look like one day before they hang it all up. 6.5% there, and then you can see the 6.9 to 7.9 for boxers and wrestlers. And here are the women at the low teens, and then it goes on with the sports involving buoyancy having a little bit higher body fat percentages there. Then here we get to the extremes of leanness with physique competitors, and we can take a look at data with off-season stats as well as contest stats. So this particular paper over here by Homey and colleagues looked at female physique competitors and in a number of different divisions. So bikini, a division called body fitness, and a division called fitness. And you can see that according to the different methods for estimating body fat percent. So this is at the beginning to the end of prep, like a 20-week period that you're looking at here with DEXA showing I guess the biggest spread over here from pre to post contest. And the thing that I want you to catch about the assessments is just how different they are. You know, you're looking at devices and methods that are not actually measuring body composition. They're estimating it. In fact, they're just taking wild, educated guesses. And just over here, Rotto and colleagues, one of the first long-term case studies looking at a drug-free bodybuilder at the start and at the end of prep, and then 6 months after um, the contest day in the recovery phase. So we started off at nearly 15% body fat. Contest day was 4.5% body fat. And then 6 months later, it's back to 14.6% body fat. And so if you're in the world of physique competition, then these are kind of what the numbers look like for body fat percent estimations. And yes, they're very extreme at the lean ends. So realistic goal setting, almost regardless of the population that we're dealing with. So with weight loss, and by weight loss, ideally, we would be talking fat loss strictly. A realistic goal of decrease per week is 0.5 to 1.0% of total body weight. And we can roughly ballpark this to about 1 to 2 pounds a week. And here's some perspective for you. So even half of the rate of 1 to 2 pounds a week is a good rate of weight loss. You know, when you extrapolate that out into a year, then you're looking at 25-ish to 50-ish pounds of weight loss in a year. And that is a admirable and spectacular change by any standard. So another perspective I want to leave you with over here is the leaner somebody is, the leaner and more fit you get, then the less useful that the scale becomes. Because I'll give you an example of this. So here's a perfect example of scale weight meaning practically nothing when you're talking about changes in body composition. So this is a friend of mine named Kate Cavers, and she is the same body weight on both pics. And this is a 6-year spread. When she started off on the left side, she was completely untrained. And then on the right side, highly trained, much leaner, more muscle, and same body weight. So once again, being weight obsessed or just fixated on the perfect number on the scale that you imagine is going to get you everything you want in life. Oftentimes it can be very deceiving. And the big point, the fitter you get, the leaner you get, and certainly if you end up putting on muscle in the process of losing fat, the less the scale actually can tell you on its own. So here is Courtney, and this was part of a 10-week transformation challenge in one of the Facebook groups that I was moderating and supervising. And so her, the expectation for a 10-week transformation, most people try to get like 10 to 20 pounds. Now, she only lost 5 pounds in the 10 weeks, but if you had no idea how much weight she lost, then you would look at the transformation and say, wow, that's really impressive. That is a really impressive weight loss, or fat loss rather, in 10 weeks. You can clearly see she has less abdominal fat, she has more muscle, and her shape is just completely different. But the net loss in body weight would not necessarily reflect that, being 5 pounds. Okay, so let's talk about some underutilized approaches to goal setting. There's a couple different types of goal setting approaches that are underrated but highly potent, and these are called approach goals and mastery goals. So approach goals, they seek to achieve a certain outcome through the addition of something to the plan. So for example, to eat more vegetables, drink more water, eat more protein, have more fiber, those kinds of goals. And this would be in contrast to avoidance goals, or goals where you deprive or decrease from the program. And another type of goal would be mastery goals. So mastery goals aim to develop a skill, like, for example, learning to cook, or learning to properly track intake, learning to read labels and those sort of things, learning how to train properly. And mastery goals are different from performance goals, which aim to attain a certain standard, like reaching a certain body weight. In contrast, mastery goals are helpful when dealing with setbacks. So if you have a mastery goal in place, then setbacks end up being seen as useful information on how to proceed rather than, ooh, that setback is an indicator of failure. And so it's a different mindset that is in operation with approach goals and mastery goals versus avoidance goals and performance goals. And with that, we concluded lesson 1. I will see you back for lesson 2 when we talk about individualizing the macronutrient targets.